The battle plan is Prize of Gallet, or Gillette, or Gallet. Your choice. Fyreslayers deploy their pizza oven. Fyreslayers deploy Rune Smiter. Suns deploy War Stomper with Arcane Tome. Fyreslayers deploy Hearthguard Berserkers, Poleaxes. Suns deploy Gatebreaker. Fyreslayers deploy Broad Axe Hearthguard Berserkers. Suns deploy King Broad. Fyreslayers deploy their Rune Sun, and the Suns deploy their last War Stomper. Fyreslayers deploy the Grimwrath Berserker and Gotrek Gurneson. Fyreslayers deploy their Rune Father on Magladroth, and Voltkite Berserkers with hand axes. Deploying first, the Suns give up the first turn to the Fyreslayers and activate the southern objective as active. The Fyreslayers' battle tactic is seize by force. Fyreslayers go for heroic leadership and succeed, where the Suns fail. Fyreslayers activate Fiery Determination for a ward of 6+ for the entire army, but fail for the enhanced effect. Fyreslayers summon the Invocation from the Firewall. Fyreslayers use Measuring Tape Nudge, but it is not effective. The Rune Sun attempts to cast Mystic Shield. But it is unbound. Fyreslayers use At the Double, moving 10 inches on their Hearthguard Berserkers. Gotrek runs for 6 for a total of 10 inches. The Fyreslayers idiotically run their entire army up into charge range. Fyreslayers complete their turn with 4 victory points. The Suns pick gaining momentum, with their target being the Volkite Berserkers. Rod prays for Shatter of the Mountains and succeeds. Both players go for heroic leadership, but both fail. Suns cast Mystic Shield, but is unbound. The Suns player rolls a random dice. With moving King Broad into location, the Volkites redeploy for 4 inches. The Suns player uses Add the Double for an extra 6 inches of movement, but does not use a measuring tape because he's that good. Swimming in command points, the Suns player uses All-Out Attack and kills 2 Volkites. Needing a 9-inch charge, the Suns player gets exactly what he needs. King Broad rerolls his charge, making it, and does 4 mortals on impact. Choosing not to charge his general, he fails to roar the Hearthguard Berserkers from Broad. And stomps the Volkites for 2 mortal wounds. Failing to roar the Hearthguard Berserkers, the Fyreslayers can now activate their Strike First ability. After a brief argument about objectives, the Fyreslayer decides to do so. King Broad suffers 6 damage. Failing to ward any of the incoming damage, the Volkite Berserkers are destroyed. King Broad activates and does 4 damage to the Hearthguard Berserkers. The Hearthguard pass their battle shot. The Suns score 4 victory points. The players roll off, and the Suns win the roll. Suns takes the turn and picks Desecrate their lands. The Fyreslayers pick the center objective as the active objective. The Fyreslayers realize that they do not all look the same, and the Rune Smiter was not a part of the Volkite Berserkers. King Broad activates his Rend Prayer, and the Fyreslayers fail to gain a command point. Suns cast Mystic Shield, and Fyreslayers are unable to unbind. The War Stomper with Arcane Tome clips the center objective. The General War Stomper makes his charge. And does 4 impact mortal wounds. King Broad stomps for 1 mortal wound, but is warded. The War Stomper fails to roar the Hearthguard Berserkers. The Hearthguard Berserkers activate their strike first. The Hearthguard are able to do 11 damage to the War Stomper. King Broad activates with all-out attack. The Hearthguard Berserkers activate all-out defense. The Hearthguard Berserkers suffer 6 damage. The Hearthguard for some reason pile into the other Great Breaker that was not in combat. And do 2 damage. They The Gatebreaker does 2 damage to the Hearthguard Berserkers. The General War Stomper does 7 damage to the Hearthguard Berserkers. And 1 Hearthguard Berserker flees. Scoring their battle tactic, the Sons of Behemat have a total victory score of 9. The Fyreslayer battle tactic is "this one's mine," picking the General War Stomper as their target. The Fyreslayers activate Rune of Awakened Steel, adding an extra rend to all their units, but fail the enhanced version. The Sons of Behemat apply Finest Hour to their General War Stomper. The Fyreslayer General, Runefather on Magmadroth, activates Blazing Fury for an extra rune, giving them a total of Rend 2 in addition to all other profiles. The Runefather uses the Damned Terrain to apply 3 mortal wounds in exchange for +1 to hit. The Runesmiter prays for runic empowerment, succeeds, and applies it to the Grimwrath Berserker. The Runesun casts Mystic Shield and applies it to the Grimwrath Berserker. The Grimwrath, having the ability to run End Charge, rolls a 3 for his run, but can reroll and rerolls to a 1 for a total of 5 inches. The Runefather shoots both Flaming Inferno and Heroic Axe with no successes. The Hearthguard shoot into King Broad, applying 2 damage. The Runefather on Magmadrust completes his charge. The Grinwrath completes his charge. Gotrek completes his charge. But the Rune Sun cannot. The Runefather roars the War Stomper. The Gatebreaker stomps for 3 damage but is warded. The General War Stomper uses his Body Slam to move the Rune Daddy away from the objective. Perplexed and dazzled by this action, the Fyreslayer General must think for a long, ponderous time. At the beginning of combat, the Runefather activates as Lord of the Lodge, adding an extra attack to all Fyreslayers within 12 inches. The Fyreslayer activates the Runefather first. The Runefather leaves the War Stomper with 3 wounds left, having to activate its Blood of the Berserker to fight twice to not fail the battle tactic. The Sons of Behemat activate their general. All attacks into the Runefather, who activates all-out defense. The War Stomper applies 7 damage to the Runefather, who bleeds 2 mortal wounds into the War Stomper, leaving him with 1 wound. The Fyreslayers activate the Grimwrath Berserker, who uses his Magmalt Ale to double his attacks, and uses all-out attack. The Sons of Behemat use all-out defense. The War Stomper suffers 4 damage. The War Stomper kills the Grimwrath Berserker, who fights on death for all 8 attacks. The Grimwrath Berserker applies another 8 damage on death. The Broadaxe Grimwrath Berserkers activate. Doing 4 damage. King Broad activates and removes the Hearthguard Berserkers. Realizing the Fyreslayer did not retreat his Hearthguard, they are forced to activate and accidentally kill the War Stomper General. As a final insult, the War Stomper falls into the General, doing another 2 mortal wounds. Gotrek activates. And in total does 16 damage. Having his kill stolen, the Rune Father fails his battle tactic, and the Grim Wrath and Gotrek fail to remove a giant, leaving 1 victory point into the next round for a total of 5 victory points. The Fyreslayers win the roll-off for round 3 and hand the turn away to the Sons of Behemat. The Fyreslayers activate the East Central objective as the new active point. The Rune Sons pick eye for an eye as their battle tactic, and do heroic heal, but fail. King Broad activates his Might of the Earth, healing D3 to each Gargant. Fyreslayers use Rally on the Hearthguard Berserkers and return 2. Fyreslayers heroically heal the Rune Father for an extra 2. The Gargant retreats his War Stomper with Arcane Tome. The Gargant player attempts a range attack and does 3 damage to the Rune Sun. The Gatebreaker completes his charge and does 4 mortal wounds on impact. King Broad completes his charge and destroys the Rune Sun on impact. The Gatebreaker performs Stomp and kills the Rune Smiter. Completing their battle tactic, holding 1, 2, and more objectives, the Sons of Behemat score 5 points for a total of 14 points in total. The Fyreslayer struggles to get his Rune Father back into the fight within this turn, and opts to have Gotrek complete the deed of eye for an eye. In response to the Fyreslayers ranting, the Suns player rolls random dice and quits them. Fyreslayer heals 1 wound on his Runefather and spends 1 command point for a rally, returning 1 Hearthguard Berserker. Not thinking ahead of time, the Fyreslayer moves Gotrek before the Runefather, allowing the Gargant to redeploy for 2 inches. The Hearthguard and the Runefather bundle onto the objective, snuggling ever so. The Gargant, frustrated by the Fyreslayer's ineptitude, tries to help him by telling him where to put his little men. Gotrek makes his charge. The Gargant fails to roar Gotrek. The Sun's player removes the Gargant before Gotrek finishes his attacks. In a casual I told you so, the Gargant fails to deflect Gotrek's attacks. However, Gotrek takes 1 mortal wound from fall damage as the Gargant timbers. The Fyreslayers score their battle tactic and control 1, 2, and more for 5 points for a 10-point victory total. The Fyreslayers win the roll-off, but afraid that the Giants will just move away, they take the turn with a desperate ploy of gaining momentum, having to kill a barely wounded Giant. Fyreslayers activate Rune of Searing Heat, then apply Finest Hour to their general, and rally for 1 extra Hearthguard Berserker. In response, Suns activate Finest Hour on King Broad. The Runefather moves, and the Sons of Behemat roll for a redeploy of 1, and casually move 1 inch without using a measuring stick. Incredible. The Fyreslayers throw a bunch of throwing axes, but deal no damage. The Runefather rolls a glorious Snake Eyes and must re-roll his charge, but succeeds. Cautious of Body Slam, the Fyreslayer moves his unit around to find out where his Runefather will end up. The Hearthguard Berserkers succeed in their charge. Having no command points left, the Runefather must Titanic duel. The Runefather is roared. The Hearthguard Berserkers are stomped for 1 mortal wound. Runefather piles for fun. The Runefather activates and deals in total 10 damage. The Gatebreaker activates on the Hearthguard Berserkers. And deals 6 damage, removing 3 Hearthguard Berserkers. The Hearthguard answer by rolling 0 6s on their poleaxes and having all of their damage saved. King Broad activates on the Hearthguard Berserkers. The Fyreslayer wards are not enough. The Hearthguard Berserkers are no more. The Fyreslayers fail their battle tactic. Control 1, Control 2 for 2 victory points, for 12 victory points in total. The Suns player practices his reading skills by picking up his battle tome and picks the battle tactic Colossal Violence, in which he must complete a kill on a monster using Titanic Duel. He applies Finest Hour to his Gatebreaker. Broad prays to give him a 6 ward. Gotrek heals. The Gatebreaker accomplishes killing the Runefather and completing his battle tactic, but the Runefather bleeds for 4 mortar wounds on him before leaving. Completing their battle tactic and controlling 2 objectives, the Sons of Behemat score 4 points for 18 points in total. Winning the roll-off, the Fyreslayers take the turn, choosing Settle a Grudge as their battle tactic. Gotrek activates, casually doing enough damage to lift King Broad. Not believing that his Mega can kill Gotrek, he urges Gotrek to fight again. Gotrek does 12 mortal wounds in addition to all 6 attacks, to which none are saved. At first it seems that Gotrek had just lifted 2 Mega Gargants, but after reanalyzing that the Mega still has a ward, and the amount of damage to kill it was exact by Gotrek, the Suns player would be able to ward at least 1 damage, which he does. With that, the Suns player starts round 5 with Wrecking Crew, demolishing the faction terrain and scoring 2 battle points and 2 victory points for the objectives, ending their total score at 22 points, where the Fyreslayers, even with their grand strategy, score out at 19. Belligerencies are exchanged between the players, but ultimately a good game.